Hi, so this is a character that I done last year sometime in ZBrush, etc. So all the modeling done in ZBrush and then cleaned up a bit in Maya, we topologized, and also I added a control rig to it. So very similar to the one that you've already got, spider-wise anyway, or whatever you want to call that creature. Got the main controller here, and we've got the elements here at the top that controls the body, keeps the legs still. And we've got the individual IK control for this as well. Plus some little extra ones that I added for stuff like wobble on the neck element. And also some extra shoulder control as well to give it like a... But apart from that, very, very similar to what you have already. So, as I mentioned in the lecture, 3 different ways of animating these creatures on the spot, with it moving forward, and also with the scenery moving towards you. So I'll start off with the first one, just moving on the spot. This is what you were going to do probably for the walks and the runs, but we'll go through each one. So just for this one, you want to get it in the pose that you think your creature is going to be moving in. So try and find a good starting pose for your actual walk. So for this one, I'm going to do the cross section that I've done in the video. So I'm just going to move this foot backwards a bit, that one back, forwards, this one forwards, this one back. So we've got that kind of cross section going on. Can perhaps just how the legs look here, just to give them a slightly better angle, maybe. Quite far forward. I mean, that's probably as far as it's going to stretch on that leg. Back a bit on this. We've got the general starting shape there of our walk. So set some keyframes down here at the bottom. Take that taller, it is. And we don't need that many frames, so let's just go for 20. In fact, no, let's go for 40 frames. Let's line that up. So you can key them all how we want this to be. Let's just repeat. Hopefully, just S should be all of them on frame 1. We can do the same again on frame 40. So let's on frame 40, so we know that the first frame and the last frame are exactly the same. And at frame 20 halfway, let's just do the opposite of what the legs are doing. In fact, before we do that, let's key the knee joints. I want to call it that. Do that as well. Right, okay, so now that they are done, but let's move them. Frame 1. Hold the middle mouse button down. Bring them at the end as well. They should have hopefully keys on frame 1 and 40. Good. Back to frame 20. Move forward, back, back, they don't have to be exact in terms of how far forward they move. Obviously, the closer the better. But if you make everything here, if you type in every value and make sure one side is the same as the other precisely, it starts to look a little bit mechanical. But you can kind of guess roundabouts where you need this to start. It doesn't have to be exactly on this, whatever is on the x-axis. It hasn't got to be exactly that forward. So don't worry too much about the exact values. That says 48.907. That one says 42 point whatever. So yep, don't worry too much. I just saw a mistake there because I've just loaded in the old Maya. So I need to turn auto key on. Right, let's do that again. So that one forward, back, forward, that one. So very, very rough animation there, the two legs moving. So we don't actually know how fast this is walking. No, I have just very much done a guess. Yeah, check it with the graph edit. Legs in general, they're fairly similar to how they're moving. Isn't that discrepancy? They're shifting. Okay. That one likely to match a bit closer, but if we play that very, very basic walk cycle there. Going a little bit further with the feet coming forward. One going forward at the moment is front right and back left. Them two get to around frame 10. Lift them up around a bit. Potentially key them all again to make have all been keyed, so they both come up. Hopefully they haven't gone down yet. Down to around about the Z level. So exactly. See our walk for them. Here, back right, left. These are the two we want here in the second part. Frame third. That. See all of them. 30. Up. Again, no, that was quite precise with both of them. If you want a little bit of variation, by all means, just change the height of one slightly, move back a little. Just so, again, you've got some slight difference. The height of the size of the stride and all variation. We've got basic walk now. Obviously, no body movement at all. But we've got a walk cycle there. It is doing some. And add more time with the after we've got the general move. So I don't know how fast this is moving yet. I don't know kind of whether the legs are all traveling at the same speed, the kind of distances they're traveling. So we've got a rough kind of movement. What we want to do now is get them more lined up so they're all traveling up when they're on the ground. They're in the air. When they're on the ground, it does. So let's play in down. Or a box, depends on what you want to use. A box is maybe a bit better because if you just put a plane down and you want to look at this from the side, you don't really get any indication as to where lines are that I mentioned. So perhaps what you actually want is a box instead. Don't scale the box because it throws all your values up when you want to try and subdivide this. So leave your scale at 1 and actually change the size of the cube. So this is a fairly big feature that I've done here, but I can't remember exactly what I've done. So let's do 300, 3 meters across. Height wise, 20. Dot. That should be enough. And depth, let's do 1,000. Got a nice big platform there to walk on. Move it down a bit because walking through the ground. Do good enough. Right, okay, separate it now. Width, just a center line. If you just want a center line to give you an idea of what the middle of your path is, divide it a little bit. 1, 2, stick 4 in there, which might give you a nicer idea that the feet aren't like sliding around and coming line too. That's fine, really, that way. And for the subdivisions in depth, height, we don't really need. Certainly in depth, then do that with 10. And we've got, that's essentially every meter. So 1, 2, 4, 5, up to 10 meters, which is our 1,000. If you want to subdivide it again, a bit nicer line, can, but it's not that important for what we're really looking for. Is just these lines here actually on the box itself. So first thing to do, I guess, is to make sure that all these are linear when they're round. Graph editor. All over the place. Everything's a curve. What we want is straight. So let's take this one first of all. So we want the line straight when it's going backwards. There it is going backwards. Get hit Z. That. Break that. Probably don't need that. We can get that. But there's our straight line going from when the first foot first hits the ground. Nice linear line all the way to the end. And it starts again to once point. But we've got a linear line. Doing the back leg, doing the same thing. Said again, don't need that probably. Down here, break the connections. Those connections linear. Then there's our backwards. Our constant backwards on that. Could perhaps line them up, see what they're like. They are traveling at the same speed there by the looks of it. Might be getting slightly further apart. In general there, they look like they are traveling at around the same speed. I dragged them back at the same time, but I did slightly obviously do them individually. So there's going to be some kind of discrepancy there. If I pick them both and drag them both back at the same time, that line should be parallel, but it's not. So you'll have to sort that out. Same will go for legs as well. Obviously with these legs, the front part that we want to change, back, hit Z. Break it, select the actual handles themselves, make them flat. You can definitely see there that this one here and this one here, that they're starting to converge. I mean, they're not, you'd have to zoom out quite a bit. So they did converge, but there's a very definite, obvious there that the distance between these two here is less here. So one of these is traveling faster than the other. ideally what we want is to have them the same distance apart. It's not much. You can see there kind of the foot moving in the corner, that the difference isn't that much, but it would be enough to see how fast it's going. A little sanity check, maybe if we click these two as well, we've now potentially got an even better idea as to how far out these are. They're not massively out. It looks like these legs here are traveling quicker than these legs here because this angle here is a bit more shallower than the angle of these two. So these are traveling a further distance than the two legs. Ideally, what we want is these all at exactly the same angle across all four legs. And this is where this box comes in. So pick a leg, essentially. Doesn't matter which one you pick, as long as you're consistent, that every leg will need to travel the same distance. So line, pick this box. Let's line up one of the legs. And line it up with something, well, I guess. Down a little bit. As line this up. Right on the tip of the arrow there on it. And it doesn't really matter where the keyframe is because we're just going to use the pre and post infinity. So let's set the keyframe there. Move forward one frame. I've already set these legs to linear, so they should match once I've actually lined these up. Again, middle mouse button, line that up again. Have a key. So let's extend that out for the infinity part. So pretty short at the moment. Like those two keyframes. Linear, back handles again. To pre-infinity, not cycle. Pre-infinity, linear. Post in. Yeah, let's make infinity visible. So we now have this one continuous constant speed platform. Check that now by doing a quick scrub. There's the speed power flow, which is great. Okay, that hopefully this foot should now line up very slightly. Obviously that's because I didn't line it up super precisely, but that's why I said, you know, this method kind of works and you do definitely get results from it, but it's not always perfect. We'll get something, some kind of there. Forward. Where it leaves the ground. So round there. Hopefully, have a look at this now. This should hug that line all the way through, which it goes back up again. Back to the recording. Do a quick check. So you can just see there that it's not a lot, but there is definitely change in how this finishes point. Should be nice and easy, hopefully. Put it into place, hold the middle mouse button down, drag to the end, and key again. We should have that first and last frame now exactly the same. I'm going to do the other three legs same way. So let's just pick, let's just do the front leg here as well, because when you're by. So don't grab a hold of it and drag with the middle mouse button because you're going to be setting a key. What you actually want to do is go into the graph editor, select the graph itself, just frame it if you have to, and line it up this way. So shift left mouse button, drag it up and down till you line that back up with the tip of arrow. There. Long obviously wasn't it? Didn't line it up at the right place. So again, zoom in a little bit. Shift left mouse button, down, extra. Twice, but yeah. So that should be it now. Assuming this is linear, but this could be traveling at a very, very different speed. So let's have a look at that. The bit we want moving backwards is here. So you can see there pretty quickly that within the first few frames, this foot is definitely traveling slower than the rear right. So the front right is traveling slower than the rear right, and as we get further and further away, see that we are getting further and further past this line. So we know this foot is traveling slow when it's on the ground, and we just need to line it up again. So grab a hold of it, pull it until it hits that point. That should now hopefully have lined it up with the moving floor. So no matter where we are now in this platform or in this sequence where it's on the ground, it lines up with this line perfectly now. But same thing will happen if I go to frame 1. You can see how far out that foot now is. So we just do it in the opposite direction. Start at 40, middle mouse button, drag back to frame 1, and key that again. So we've now got these 2 feet traveling at the same speed along the ground when they're on the ground. We just do a quick test by looking at that. These lines, yeah, without checking, should be the same. In fact, if I test if I found them, drag this back, they should line up, and you can see there kind of that they do pretty much line up in terms of, well, they should be exact really. Those 2 parallel lines there stay pretty much parallel all the way down, so we know that they're traveling at the same speed along the ground. Do the same with the other 2, and that should be the end of our walk. So I'm just going to speed it up while I finish these last 2 legs and drop it down to a normal speed. I finished. Right, so we're back now with all 4 feet finished. Again, just a quick check of lines. Do try and line these up very roughly. See there, hopefully, that they do now line up pretty much exactly. So there's a very, very tiny gap there, but that's going to be such a small amount. It is one of the issues with not actually attaching the floor. It's always going to be a best guess. But as far as that goes, that's really not going to be noticeable in the game. So that's sorted. The rest of the stuff now is just adding the rest of the animation to it. So I'll finish off this animation just so you can see something a bit nicer than just the legs. But for the speed that you want, you don't really know what kind of speed we're traveling at the moment. So we need an idea of what value we would need to put into Unreal to stop this from sliding. We've got a constant speed now. We know what this constant is, but we need a value to put into it. So We're currently running at 24 FPS. We want the value of this flow, how far it's traveled over 1 second. So what the value of it is on values moving, translate Z. So we've got here on frame 1, 237.026. I just bring up pad, I guess. So 237.06. Don't know which direction it's currently traveling in. That value is getting smaller. Go to frame 24. 124.8. So we want the difference between 124.308, 237. Do that. We take away that value, whatever's left will be the distance that it's traveled over 1 second. Do that, I guess. We copy that. Open Google. Type that in. What's the value? So here it's traveled 112.718 distance wise. So if we were to stick that value into our walk speed in Unreal, pushed fully forward on the joypad, you should get no foot sliding on this character. We've told Unreal that it's running at 112.718 centimeters per second. That's what we've authored it at. That's what it should turn out at. Okay, so hopefully that will help out those of you who just want to use the rough and ready on the spot